us, anything which is acquired by us. You get a windfall of money, becomes yours. Now you have to be in charge of that money. Win lottery, you have to be in charge of it. Somebody gets a Yerusha. What is a Yerusha? Kadosh Baruch Hu, Yerusha is not something you do. Yerusha is something that is. And it happens, unless you write a will to override the Yerusha. Yerusha is something that happens in the Torah. That's God's transference of responsibility from one generation to another generation. That's called, it becomes a new generation of those who have to do a tikkun on whatever falls our way. Am I clear about this? Because this is the very important point. More than anything. That's right. So that's exactly right. She asks, we have to return our bodies to ourselves. So do we belong to ourselves? It's a kinyan. What? It's working. Streaming to YouTube. Okay. Should I start from the beginning? No. No. Do we belong to us? Let me explain something first of all. We're told in the Zohar, there are 3 parts to us. 4 really, but 3 spiritual parts. There's our body. There's our naran, nephesh, that's what we're talking about tonight, our ruach, and our neshama. Now, there's a mistake. If you'll ask people, like, what are you? Like, who am I? Like, existential question. If you want to ask, like, a fancy question, who am I? So one person will say, well, I'm what I think, I'm what I eat. And a sophisticated person will say, well, I am my neshama. My neshama is the real part of me, and the goof is just hanging around. This is not true. This is not true. We are not our neshama. Neshama is a tool, like our brain is a tool. Neshama, we say this every morning in davening, Shakai. Neshama shenasata bi. The neshama which you put in me, that means there's a me. I'm here. And then Hashem puts a neshama inside of me. It's one of the wonderful gifts that I have as perhaps on loan for as many years as we're alive, but it's one of the things that I have as a tool that I could really get above thought with this. You know, like neshama is higher than thought. So neshama is sometimes sometimes just what you perceive without even knowing it. There's perception without even knowing it. So people, this is not like a hocus pocus, airy fairy thing. This is our neshama. And the more your neshama is active, there's different kinds of neshama, the more you can perceive. You could perceive Hashem, you could perceive different people's thoughts. The problem is the neshama comes with a klipa. It's also imperfect, believe it or not. And it has to be broken down. All the walls have to be broken down until it can become working as a good neshama. But to our point is the nephesh. Nephesh is the life force itself. Like what makes us alive and what makes us not alive. It's not the neshama. If you're a doctor or an ethicist or a halachist, and you have to know what is the correct time to pronounce somebody dead, it's not when your neshama stops, it's when the nephesh stops. At that point, there's a Yitzias HaNeshama. At that point, the neshama leaves us and goes to back to its source. But the nephesh means we're alive. If you have a nephesh, a Baruch Shem, everybody sitting here has a nephesh, and that nephesh is what is the main tool that we use because that makes us alive to acquire things and fix things and make things happen in this world. You could say the main thing is the goof. But the goof, just 1 minute, the goof is your body. So the body is obviously not the main thing. The body is with you for a little bit and then it's gone. There's no eternity at all to the body. The body is here, is gone to, here today, gone tomorrow. We should all live till 120 years. But the nephesh is that which animates the body and gives it life. So all the discussion about the moment of death and what's life and what's death, that all has to do with the nephesh. Another thing that all has to do with the nephesh is what we own and what we don't own. This is a very important point halachically, by the way. A person who's not alive can't make a kinyan. Does that sound like natural to you? It's not so simple, because how do you get a Yerusha? How do you give a Yerusha? That's all kinyanim. So that's something, that's a special thing that Hashem made by Yerushas. But normally, that which I associate, like if you're dead, you can't marry anybody, as an example. If you're dead, you can't divorce anybody. You can't buy anything. You can't sell anything. And that's all the nephesh. If my nephesh is in place, I could do all those things. I can operate in this world. If my nephesh is not in place, I can't do those things. So let me just go back to the words of the Arizal. Anything that my nephesh has acquired becomes part of the shorish of my nephesh. The shorish of my nephesh means all of a sudden you have a kesher with that, but it's a kesher nafshi. It's just like, like David and Yonasan, nafshi kshura benafsho. There's a kesher hanefesh. Obviously, a husband and wife have a kesher hanefesh, and they know what the other person is thinking and doing without even trying. If there's a kesher nafshi, it takes time, but that's what happens. So the nephesh, this is an important halachic point. The nephesh is the part of me that makes the kesher. My neshama makes no kesher. Neshama is my neshama. The nephesh is the life force of the body. Yeah, let's hold the questions for the end. Yes, it's very complicated, so let me just go. Although all your questions are very good, by the way. Just give you a second. So let's go over this so we all understand that. Thank you for paying such good attention. Naran means nephesh. There's my goof. What goes into my goof? What equipment do I have when Hashem animates me? So the first thing is I have my nephesh. I'm alive. By the way, animals are alive. Ants are alive. So that's the nephesh. There's a nephesh. We have a very good one, Mercedes-Benz. But it's just the nephesh. But it's not that great of a nephesh. I mean, athletes try to run a marathon, but like if you were a zebra or something, you could run it in 1/10 of the time. So it's a stronger nephesh. There are things that technology can do that we can't do. But the nephesh, our goof is very weak, but it's there to facilitate that which we need to accomplish to make our tikkun in life, to matter. And then there's the ruach. The ruach is another tool that Hashem gave us, and that's the ruach memalalo. We can communicate, we can talk, we can listen. All those things go into ruach. It's not just that I'm alive or not alive, but I'm actually conscious. That's my ruach. I'm actually conscious. Like we have to make a distinction between the brain and the mind. The brain is a physical thing. That's like the goof that gets animated. The mind is part of ruach. So say the mekubalim. And then there's the neshama. And we wake up in the morning and we say Elokai, and neshama, we get a new one every day. The reason why we're the same today as we were yesterday is because we have the same nephesh and we have the same goof. But the neshama is new every day. And you can wake up and feel renewed, not just physically, but you have really another chance. And I'm not just saying it as chizuk, it's real. You actually have another chance. That tool has to be renewed every day, like milk or something. It has an expiration date. You go to sleep and your neshama, it comes back. It's a refreshed neshama, and we say this in our tefillah every day. Neshama shenasata bi tahori, ata varasa, ata yitzarta, ata nefachta bi. These are the words that we say. The words of brias ha'adam. So that's the main point is, what is our job to do a tikkun in? The answer is anything that's associated with me. So we all have to take a breather, take a moment, and start thinking, what's my domain? Where's my tikun supposed to be? You asked, are we in charge of myself more than anything? It's a kinyan. When Hashem gives us a life, He puts us in charge of the life, and if He puts us in charge of life, because it's a kinyan, a person owns their life to some extent. Person makes, that's called, by the way, a word that you all know, bechira chavshis. We can make choices. The choices that we make, that's choices really of the nephesh. The neshama is not making any choices. Neshama's your choice is: do you want to listen to the neshama and to the words of the neshama? Do you want to be in that space of the neshama? That's a choice, and that's a lot of work. But the whole world of bechira, which is a very human thing, certainly a very Jewish thing, is part of the nephesh. So let me just encapsulate everything I just said into one or two sentences. We're put into this world. This is so basic, and we're put into this world to fix our domain, which was created broken, which includes ourselves. If we have a challenge, who doesn't have challenges? If you have a challenge in life, that's your project to be masaking, to do a tikkun. Obviously, there's a tikkun that needs to be made. Let me share with you a little Torah. There's a lot of names for Hashem, as you know. One of the very interesting names, if that's the correct word to use about Hashem, is the name Shakai, Shin Daled Yud Shaddai. You see it on a mezuzah case. You don't see it in a bracha. You see the name that Avraham Avinu said, Kel Shakai. I'm saying Shakai because I don't want to say Shaddai. Avraham Avinu used that term. The name Shin Daled Yud is always associated with the Brias HaOlam. It's the name of creation. You'll look through Tanakh and you'll see. When anything is created, it's created with the shem Shakai. So Rashi brings the Gemara, the very beginning of the Torah, Bereshis Bara Elokim, and says the following. Kel Shakai, says this, and Rashi says it in Bereshis, and he says it again in Lech Lecha. Kel Shakai, Avraham Avinu said, yeah, be'ezri, should help me. Says Rashi that since the name of the name God uses when He's creating the world is the name Shakai, it has in there the word, says Rashi, the word die. Die. What does die mean? Yeah. Die, enu. I speak. Why does the name of creation have the name enough, the word enough in it? So I'll tell you why. Everything I'm telling you is things that I've learned. They're not anything that I'm creating right now. So the reason is because when Hashem created the world, 6 days of creation, at some point He said, die. What does it mean? Like, let's say, okay, here's a seed for an apple tree. Now we'll take the seed and turn it into a tree. And then the tree will grow up enough that it actually has branches and leaves. And then eventually it'll have apples. You see how it keeps on going. It evolves, for lack of a better word, into what we know today as an apple tree. But at some point, Hashem said, die. That's enough for me. Now it's your turn. Otherwise, the tree would be growing applesauce, meaning it would keep on going. It would keep on going. So it's true of every single thing in the Bria. Everything in the Bria Hashem created, it has a life force, and it goes and goes as God's creation, and then Hashem says, die. That's why he used the name die. Why did he say die? He said die, Shaddai. Why did he say it's enough? Must be, geduk. The answer is because now I created a person, a human, to finish this off. You make the apple juice. You harvest the wheat. The Gemara takes a long time to explain the different 10 things that Adam and Chava did to make bread. Can you imagine, like, who would even think of such a thing? Make bread, you take the wheat, you grind the wheat, you separate the wheat, you make dough out of it, the dough, 10. That's why when you pick up your challah on Friday night or Shabbos, always pick it up with 10 fingers to remember how Adam and Chava did 10 malachas to make the wheat. This was all human intervention. It was God making the bread, the wheat, the source of the whole thing, raw material, chomer gelem, and now it's us turning it into something which is presumably healthy and the kiyum of the world, or if you do it wrong, like everything in this world, you make a kilkul in the world, you can mess the whole world up too. So you got to know what you're doing when you have the steering wheel. But at what's happening over here is Hashem says die, and now it's up to the human to finish it off. Comes Rashi and he says, explaining Avram Avinu, Misha Yomar lo elamai die. He, God, who says lo elamo to the world that he was creating, die. Stop here. This is where you should stop. Avram Avinu daven Yomer l'tzara seinu die. This is so deep. Okay. Yomer l'tzara seinu die. It's so deep. God should say enough to our problems. This is not just a poetic thing. This is a deep thing. Because just like God created apples trees, to keep our example, or wheat, to keep our example, to facilitate for us to do a tikkun, same thing, he created tsaros. Every time there's tsaros in the world, whether it's our personal tsaros, chas v'shalom, or it's community tsaros, or there's protesters in Iran, or whatever it might be, it's all there. It's all the tsaros which need a tikkun. It's the bread that needs to be made. It's the technology which has to be developed. It's all human. If God likes computers and phones, why didn't he just create them? Why don't they grow on trees? Why doesn't money grow on trees? And the answer is because that's the human part of it. That's the nephesh part of it. So this is what I want everyone to do for a second. Try to figure out what God makes in our life and what we made in our life. It's very important because there's some tsaros we just make ourselves. Maybe most of them, I mean, from what I listen to people every day, a lot of people make their own tsaros. But there are, like people certainly have illnesses and disabilities and financial problems. I mean, people really have tsaros. So what's a tzara for? The tzara is there because, okay, obviously Hashem decided that we could do a tikkun on this. Now the tikkun could be in here, the tikkun could be in the world, the tikkun, that's God's cheshbon, but obviously he feels that we can do some type sha'asali called sarki. He gave us what we need. We have the tools. Make the tikkun that you have to make. Stand up and make the tikkun and matter. See, this is the whole thing. We can make but at some point, we cry out to Hashem and we say, look, you told the wheat, die. You told the apples, die. You told everything is die. We don't grow to be Og Melech HaBashan, 100 feet, 1,000 feet. There's a die there, and then it becomes for us to develop. So like the tsaros that you're giving us, that's a project. But also, maybe you'll say, die. This was Avraham Avinu's great chiddush. Like, okay, just let that be enough. So when we're saying this is the way Avraham davened, he davened with the word die. Dayenu, when you'll get to the Haggadah this year, is the deepest, the deepest parts of the whole Haggadah. Because it's all about the Shem Shaddai. It's all about that the tikun that had to go step at a time, that had to be made a step at a time. So nobody should look for problems. But if you have them, you have to own them. Because if you don't own them, then you have a tikun that wasn't made, and then we didn't fulfill our purpose in this world. And it was wasted. So it's a bit harsh, no? But it means that no matter, like, if you're at the beginning of life or well into it, it's so important for us to reflect. I once heard, the truth is I only once heard Rabbi Victor Miller speak. I'm actually in person. And I remember him saying, I don't remember all that he said, but I remember one of the things that he said is that if you figure out what your purpose in life is by the time you're 40, you're doing very well. As a man with a lot of experience and age behind him, so I was a little bit less than 40, so I felt better. But it's really a lifelong search for what our raison d'etre is in life. And the reason it has to be is because we get a new neshama every day, because we have a new mandate every day. And there's a new tikkun that we have to make. So, you get up in the morning and you say, Bodani lefanecha, I have my neshama, everything is back, I have all my faculties, thank God. Asher yatzar is on the everything seems to be working, all systems go. What tikkun do I have to make? It's not just about a to-do list, it's what's the tikkun that I'm supposed to make? And a lot of times, the tikkun, I'll give you an example of tikkunim that I think is so important, is the tikkun of, I think the first tikkun everybody has to throw out their cell phones. But I think that, like, here's a good way to look at it. Let's say something is, like really annoying. Did you ever have that experience? No, but I mean, like, really, like every time you see a certain person, it's irritating. Every time they talk, it's irritating. Even the way they walk sometimes is irritating. This is called sinas chinam. Like sometimes, what's sinas chinam? Sinna for nothing. Nobody hates anybody for nothing. There must be a reason why you hate them. No, but the answer is that it grows it grows out of control. There's no die there. If you let it go, okay, I don't like what you said, but then all of a sudden I don't like anything you say. I don't like anything you wear. I don't like anything you do. And we build a case. That's what sinas chinam is. That's what the word means. The sinna is the little part, and the chinam for nothing is the whole big part. So I see this person, and they irritate me. I'm not going to give examples though, because I happen to be like a lot of things get on my nerves. That's the truth. But so what does it mean? It's okay. What it means is that my tikkun is to have a little bit of patience, and my tikkun is to understand that, first of all, like, break it down. People have, every person in the world, everyone has a good part to them and a not so good part to them. Nobody's perfect. That's the whole story. Nobody's perfect. But so the point is that people, like, the good and the bad, like, the bad doesn't cancel out the good. So, there's not a math problem here. But it's easier for our minds to just let a person be canceled. That's even the term. Just be canceled. Why cancel? Because it's easier for us than to say, okay, everybody has their milos and their chesronos, their good parts, their bad parts, their good points, their faults. let's focus on the good parts. This is a big job. I'm saying it like, okay, I'm not giving Musser here. I'm telling you myself, this is a big tikkun that has to be made. So, I say like this, that, people always ask these days, because there's so much going on, like we're like really in history now, the wars and and people say, well, why isn't Mashiach here? We have Eretz Yisrael, we Baruch Hashem, we're here in Eretz Yisrael. Our grandparents, great-grandparents have been dreaming about Eretz Yisrael. We're here in Eretz Yisrael. We can technically build a Beis HaMikdash. There's more Torah than probably there's ever been in history. I think there's more Torah today, more Limud Torah and development of Torah. I mean, I meet people in Beit Shemesh. Vilna has nothing on Beit Shemesh. I'm telling you, you can walk down the street and be somebody who knows all of Shas. Somebody who knows all of Kabbalah. We've done so much. Why isn't Mashiach here? And even from a secular point of view, we had the Industrial Revolution, and that led to the technology. It's so masukan what we have. There's a lot of tikkunim that was done. A lot of tikkunim that were done. So the only thing left, I think, is this, that we still hate each other. Isn't it the truth? I mean, everybody, like, if you're not exactly, I don't know, like, who not to hate, like, everybody who's not exactly in your lane, so we hate. So I said this morning, if you happen to be here, that, Hashem split the sea, this week's parsha, he split the sea, he split it into 12 parts, and if you look at the Gemara, it was 12 parts, because there's 12 different tribes and 12 different types of people and 12 different functions, and then, Kafu tahaimais belev yam. It was like the words of Chazal. It was like there was chuchis, like windows between the lanes. So here's the thing: stay in your lane, but look out the window, and that's okay too. They're also going across the lane. It's so hard. One of those lanes. It wasn't just 12 tribes. Shevet Dan was carrying an avodah zarah of Micha, Pesel Micha with them. So I mean that's going to get on everybody's nerves. But okay, everybody has their space, and everybody has to be able to develop, and that's their tikkun. And it was, if you go through Tanakh, Shoftim, and Shol, their tikkun was to get rid of the Pesel Micha, to get that out of their lives. They were stuck on it. Others had a tikkun of kas. We all had a tikkun. Almost everybody had a tikkun because we did Mechiras Yosef. That was the intolerance of the Sinas Chidam. We hated everything about Yosef. That's us still going on these things. That's the only thing left, I think, that we need to do a tikkun on. Maybe there's some other things, but I think we did a lot. I think we've done a lot. I think there's a lot of tikkun, but this tikkun is a good one to do. And when you see somebody who you hate, I know I'm using a strong word, hate, because you say, well, I don't really hate the person, but it is hate. It's called sinas chidam. Then an alarm goes off. And when the alarm goes off, it's not about, well, let me see my therapist, or let me go into the other room, or let me ignore the person, or cancel the person, chas v'shalom. The thing to know is, okay, it's tikkun time. It's tikkun time. An opportunity has just come my way. When it gets too much, so then you say what Avraham said, Saraseinu die, Mishamer l'Saraseinu die, Mishamer, excuse me, L'Lamai die, Yomer l'Saraseinu die. Okay, like Geduk, but not must speak like you're hurting us. Like maybe you'll do the rest, Hashem. Like let me do I did a lot. Maybe you'll do the rest. But we're not going to get off. The reason why things irritate one person and not the other person is because everyone has a different tikkun to make. The ultimate tikkun of the world. So, like the Navi says, Yeshayahu says, that lagur ze'evim keves yachad. That the lamb and the wolf, they're usually killing each other. Predator. They're living peacefully together. When we take, as the Arizal, enough responsibility in the world, tikkun olam. See some of the non-frum movements talk about tikkun olam and talk about it all day. So what do they mean? They're talking about like go hug a tree, or do something for the people in Africa. All good. It's all good stuff. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just the tikkun olam that we're talking about is to look what's out there and see what I can make a tikkun. So it goes like this: like what I own, I'm mechuyev. I have a chiyuv. What's like really connected to me, my kids, my house, my car. That I have a chiyuv to make a tikkun with that. But what like even the this need to have more things and more things. So really, like marba nechas and marba daigus, it's not so easy to have more and more things. But the reason why we want more things is because that's our neshama saying, make more tikkun, make more tikkun. There's more things that we can be misaket, and it could go so far as that we could get rid of, let's say, hate so much that it could be that even a lamb and a wolf will live together. That's the world when Mashiach comes. Yeshayahu Hanavi says. So even a wolf and a lamb will be able to live together because all that sinna will be mitukan. In short, there's so much to say, and I'm already out of time. But the purpose of the world is to make tikkun. Our purpose is make tikkun. And this, I want to give us all, including me, homework here. Like, what's the next tikkun that we have to work on? You don't have to say it out loud. I'm just saying, think about it for a minute. The tikkun usually is the painful thing in our life. Whether it's a person, whether it's an illness, whether it's the news, what's going on in the world, very painful, causes a lot of anxiety. But where we have anxiety, sometimes it's poverty, sometimes it's psychological problems, medical problems, all kinds of things. Where we have the problem, Hashem should help us, that's exactly what we can't dull ourselves to. That's exactly where our tikkun has to happen. Do you understand this? Am I clear? I'll tell you, end off by telling you, the Gemara says that Pinchas ben Yair, he was a great Tana, buried in Sfas, 2,300 years ago. Pinchas ben Yair. So the Gemara says two things about him. He was a big tzaddik. He was known as tzaddik. People went to him for blessings, the Gemara says. Times of the Gemara. So one thing about him was that he had animals, and his animals, even without him watching, would never graze in somebody else's farm. It would never eat, never destroy somebody else's property. Of course, he tried to watch it, but it would never happen. This the Gemara calls the phenomenon of behemton shel tzadikim. Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu mevi takala al yadam. What does it mean? It means that my animal that's grazing is connected to my nephesh. Everything that I own, remember, is part of the shorish of my nephesh. So since it's part of the shorish of my nephesh, it won't, if I'm really did the tikkun that I'm supposed to do, then it will never happen that my behema will be out of control. We have a whole masechet in Shas of Baba Kama that the kids learn. I learn with my grandson every day. My shore hits your shore and it sounds so like as Yosef says, this is never going to happen. We start off learning every day. What's he going to do today? Is the ox going to gore? Is the ox going to get gored? Is he going to gore an ox that was never gored? What's he going to do today? It all has to do, the deep thing is, it all has to do with your shore is your animal, your car, but your shore has its own life, but it's connected to my nephesh. And since it's connected to my nephesh, I have some control over it. And therefore, I have some responsibility and obligation if it hurts something else. That's the whole Masechta Baba Kama. The whole thing is all about what is my responsibility. My responsibility, like even if I see a shore shel hefker, a shore that doesn't belong to anybody, I see it's going to do damage, and I can stop it. I don't have responsibility to stop it. No Beis Din can charge me a knas. Why didn't you stop that shore? Maybe I should. It's a big mitzvah. But what's mine, I have to do a tikkun on. So one thing about Pinchas ben Yair is that he never, his animals never did damage to any other crop. The other thing about Pinchas ben Yair, which is even a bit more interesting in these days, is he was busy his whole life. This was his mitzvah. And by the way, what this means is sometimes you got to pick your mitzvah. You got to do them all, but sometimes if Achnosas Orchim is your mitzvah, so that's your mitzvah. So his mitzvah was pidyon shvuyim, releasing hostages, captives. Pidyon shvuyim. Who knows better than us what it means to release hostages? Comes the Gemara and says that this work that he did was 10% about raising money to pay ransoms and things like that, which you had to do, and 90% fixing up his own nephesh. Who am I making a hostage in my life? Who am I manipulating? Who am I taking away their freedom? How much freedom have I limited myself to? How much have I canceled other people? Taking away their right to exist. Pinchas, Gemara, Pinchas ben Yair, 10% money, 90% nephesh work. And like this, he had a tremendous siyata d'shmaya. A tremendous siyata d'shmaya. He was, when they couldn't figure out how to do pidyon shvuyim, they went to Pinchas ben Yair. I have a daughter, Baruch Hashem, I'm going to brag now for a minute. So she frees agunas. Yes? Many. That's what she does. But her neshama is there. She can't sleep at night. If there's a chained woman who, not rightfully so, is stuck in a marriage trying to get out and somebody's trying to extort her for money. That's what she does. We all have our thing. We all have our thing. So you got to do all the mitzvahs. But what we need to look for is where's the tikkun have to be made. And the tikkun means that's which we are created. So I go back to the first thing that I said. Title of the book that you can all write. Do you matter? You only matter if you're accomplishing what you were created to accomplish. Might take 40 years, 45 years till you even figure it out. But I think there's ways to, with Torah, maybe deep thought, there's ways to figure out. Usually, by the way, let me say this. You know how you know which is your mitzvah? Like, what's your mitzvah? Tzedakah, mafresh challah, buying tzitzis for soldiers. What's your mitzvah? They're all good. So the answer probably is the one that gets on your nerves. The one that's annoying. Look at this, like I'm saying, everybody should be annoyed for at least a little part of the day. Because if you're not annoyed, that means you're not doing it. You're just going, la la la, you're just going along with your natural presence. That's not a tikkun. That's not a tikkun. The tikkun is when you find the place, ooh, that hurts? Okay, now the dentist drills. Look for the place that hurts, and that's probably the tikkun. You know what? Before you know it, it doesn't hurt anymore. And that means get another mitzvah now. Keep going. That's the tikkun. So Yehi Ratzon, there's a lot to say, but we should all have our shorish nephesh, shorish nefashos, should all be holy. And we should be able to fulfill, this is such a big bracha I'm giving us all now. We should be able to fulfill our tachlis, our purpose, our mandate in life. And we should be able to, as we approach older age, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he picked up his hands and he said, I did it. I did it. And that's where we all have to strive, be able to pick up our hands. I did it. I did my tikkun. I did the best I can. Tsaros, that's one of the challenges, but for that we can